Good afternoon, sir, and a very, very warm welcome to our Emeritus Chairperson, Dr. N.S. Swankar, sir. Thank you, sir, for being here and being a part of the 25th Physiotherapy Combined Round, the Silver Jubilee. Your guidance, your motivation, your inspiration is always among us, and we have successfully conducted 24 PTCR because of your guidance and because of your help. Thank you so much, sir, for that. And a very, very warm welcome, and give a round of applause everyone for every occasion should start with the blessing of our Almighty. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Madhusudan Tiwari, sir, Principal of Mahatma Gandhi Physiotherapy College, for enlightening the people around for the highlights and the achievement of the Mahatma Gandhi Physiotherapy College.
Good morning, everybody. Respected dignitaries, Honorable Leader Chairperson Dr. N.S. Swankar, sir, respected Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Vishnu Kapoor, sir, respected Principal of Dental College Dr. Nilesh Pariyar, sir, Head of Department of Surgical Oncology Dr. Rajendra Sharma, sir, Physiotherapy College Principal Dr. Prakash ji, Dean Principal MD Nursing College Dr. Neeraj Soniti, Principal College of Physiotherapy from JNU University Dr. Atul Singh, faculty members, respected faculty members of our Mahatma Gandhi Physiotherapy College, all the speakers of today's 25th PTCR, convener of PTCR Dr. Arvind Tomar, co-convener Dr. Nidhi Gupta. I extend a warm welcome to all of you. Here I am going to present about the overviews of Gandhi Physiotherapy College. Our college was started in 2005. Degree program we started in 2005, and when MGM University was established in 2011. We started MBT program in 2012. Then we started PhD program in the year 2016. We are running MBT in 4 specialty: MBT Ortho, MBT Cardiopulmonary, MBT Neurology, and MBT Sports. Mahatma Gandhi Physiotherapy College is the 5-star rated physiotherapy college, post-physiotherapy college recognized by the Indian Association of Physiotherapists, and we are our college is attached with Mahatma Gandhi Hospital. This is multi-specialty and super specialty hospital, and capacity is 1500.
ये जो रेटिंग हमने मन से किया या रेटिंग?
Sir, rating is done by the Indian Association of Physiotherapists.
रेटिंग 5 स्टार.
Yes, 5-star rating. We are the first rank in Rajasthan and full rank in North India. These are the faculty strengths. We are strictly following the NCSP norms, and as per the norms, we are fulfilling all the criteria of faculty, and our faculty members are well qualified, and their profile is very strong. They are very motivated. These are the strength of the students in our college. This is the data about the number of applicants during the admission in DPT program. See, we can see the 3 times of applications were there previously 2 years. Now 8 times of applications are there this year. For MPT program, almost 2 times of applications were there, and this times
Focus on merit and transparency.
right, sir. Right, sir.
And
We are strictly following these things, sir.
after 8 times increase है.
Yes, sir.
Because of the transparency. Because of the merit.
Sure, sir.
मैं भी सिफारिश करूँगा. Exam part is merit part.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Sure, sir. We are following it, sir. Strictly following it, sir. And at the DPT level, apart from the theory, practical, and clinical training, we do some activities. I wanted to highlight here. After the admission in the DPT program, we assess the students on the basis of continuous assessment, and we categorize the student in as a slow learner and medium learner, and then we arrange parent-teacher meeting, and we also arrange remedial classes, provide study material to the slow learner students. All EBK students are regularly presenting seminars on practical topics and clinically important topics. Practical record book is mandatory for all practical subjects, and project works and clinical conditions case presentation is mandatory for interns, and logbook they regularly maintain. This thing we do in DPT. As far as MPT is concerned, at MPT level, our students regularly present seminar, journal presentation, and we help them to prepare research-oriented synopsis and presentation in MPT. We also started regularly we provide inter-departmental classes for strengthening assessment, because at NCH we are given right to assess the case for the physiotherapy. Physiotherapists are the self-practitioner. If your assessment part is not very strong, then you will not be able to practice as a self-practitioner. For the sake of this thing, we have strengthened the assessment part of the PGA students. For that, we regularly organize diagnostic radiology classes, research and biosecurity classes, and palliative care classes. Our PGA students, every research proposal is mandatorily registered under the Clinical Trial Registry of India, CTR registration in India. We do this thing. Our PG and PhD students are actively involved in copyright and patent publications, and this year we have maximum number of copyright and patents done by the Physiotherapy College. Every MPT students are mandatory update logbook on daily basis, and we have kept PPT slide bank of seminar and lectures. Recently, on 25 November, we organized national conference, New York City conference in collaboration with Indian Association of Physiotherapists. It was a very big event, and we are very fortunate that our honorable Minister Chairperson Sarpati located that conference. He was the witness. During that conference, more than around 1,000 delegates were there. Apart from the paper and poster presentation, we arranged panel discussions, cultural programs, pedagogy functions. And in the month of November 2025, we arranged 4 national level workshops, and that workshop was inaugurated by Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Gati sir. These 4 workshops were based on our advanced techniques, MFR, PNH techniques, MRT, motor neural program techniques, neurobehavioral program techniques. And these resource persons were renowned resource persons from various parts of India, to universities. In the year 2025-26, we organized 11 programs in our college. In the month of April, we organized cultural program in Asia, in April 2025. White Coastal Mary we also organized. Then there's an anti-ragging program we organized in our college. We organized World Women's Day program. On that day, blood donation camp were organized by the students. Quiz competition and poster competitions were there. We celebrated Teachers' Day in September, and in the month of September, 10 September, we released MGP's newsletter, and that newsletter was released by the Honorable Latest Chairperson of Members of Council. We also organized Dandiya function, Indian Constitution Day. We organized World Disability Day program, and panel discussions were there, poster competitions were there. Rajasthan Divas we celebrated. We also organized in the month of May 2026 AGM Sports and Cultural Fest. Our alumni contributes something for the college, and they also contribute the guest lecture. These are the glimpses of the guest lectures they organize. They deliver lectures for their junior candidates. And guest lecture also conducted by the various resource persons from good university. You can say CSM University, Kanpur, Ghotia University, Kolkata University, Gujarat, Noida International University, Netherlands, Kazakhstan universities, Maharashtra University. Various resource persons came and they organized the guest lectures. These are the guest lectures Yes, sir. Inaugurated by Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. We regularly organize PhD combined round. Our PGS students, they do seminar and club presentations. Later meetings we organize in our college and PTM we organize. Faculty development program are organized by the faculty of the Target Health Corporation. Our faculty members participated in this faculty development program. Recently, it has been organized in the month of May. Our faculty members received various awards, prestigious awards. Our two faculty members presented paper in the international conference. Dr. Vidhi Gupta presented in paper in Vietnam international conference, and Dr. And the second conference in the second conference, paper presenting was done by Devendra Singh Sethawat, and he also won award in that paper presentation. We regularly organize value-added courses on advanced techniques. Basic life support course is mandatory for all UG and PG students, and it is mandatory, and this program, this course is our students are regularly attending this course, and they are completing this course. As far as research and copyright management is concerned, in the year 2024-23, MD College published maximum number of patent and copyrights, and this year our PG and PhD students have registered in CTRI. 40 CTRI topics, research topics, and registered under MD College. We have also published book chapters. Our students have achieved various achievements done by our students. Our students are winner of Children's Cricket League 2026. Our girls students and girls students are also winner of Cricket League of 2026. Our boys are the runner-up in football tournament. Our PGS students won second position in research presentation in state level conference, and our three students of MBT pioneer. They have also won cultural and academic cultural program winners and academic program winners in conference Suresh Gandhi University. We have awarded 6 PhD PhD students degree in the year 2025-26. Our students have also successfully completed NPTEL SWAN portal courses. Some have completed this course, some results are waiting. Our students generally go for industrial visits and food care Jaipur, Artificial Limb Center and Orthosis Center, Pegi Artificial Limb Center. They get exposure of how to make the artificial limb and how to provide proper feeding to the patient. We have 5 active MOU and collaborations. Apart from the clinical and academic works in our institution, we also provide community-based services at various community centers in the city. Abhinagar Ashram, the daily care is at Jamdoli. Our residents usually go for there and they provide therapy to the daily people, old women. And our residents also posted the RSTC, Vatika, MD, City Center, Kadapal, USDC Jabalpura, Balwar, Modi, and Children Hospital, Chatakmar. At these places, we are providing free services. We have introduced national education policy in the year 2023 in our university. Recently, we have made the syllabus of competency-based syllabus made by the NCSP, and we are going to implement it from this year. Our PG and PGA students placement and progression higher studies. Every year, up to 3 students go for abroad for the higher study, and almost 90% of the pass of the students are well placed, and they are running their own clinic also. Our MPT PGA students all have 100% placement.
प्लेसमेंट जो दिखाया आपने
जी
तो उनके सेल्फ वो भी तो हॉस्पिटल्स में या कहीं दूसरी जगह से जॉब कर रहे हैं
ये दूसरी जगह जॉब कर रहे हैं उसका, या उसने अपनी क्लिनिक खोल रखी है उसका भी, तो मैं जाके मेरा भी आपको ज़्यादा चलेगा।
सेपरेट डेटा देखते हैं
राइट सर, इसको गाइड उसका।
नेम ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूशन एंड whether they are doing such practices.
यस सर, श्योर सर, थैंक यू। So when we are passed in the 2025, 100% placement are there, and 5 alumni are pursuing PhD. These are the some list of alumni. Recently, in this year, 2 alumni have gone for higher study in abroad. Matthew Prasad, she is pursuing MPS program from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And Vidita Purwal, recently she has gone to Australia for Master in Global Public Health program. She has joined. As far as Indian Institution of Chemistry ranking is concerned, we are first in Jaipur and Rajasthan, best in North India, and good ranking in India.
Who's giving you the rank? Association.
Yes, sir. Associated are they are given rating on the basis of their assessment. 2 times their assessment.
Good rank in India. They classify it for what?
Because actually we are based in North India, that is why we are claiming we are good at. I think one is
What I'm asking.
right, sir.
तुमने अपनी मर्जी से लिखा है उन्होंने दिया है आपको कितना
सर हमने उसके बेसिस पे असेसमेंट करी है सर।
है
एक्चुअली वेबसाइट है इंडियन स्टूडेंट फेडरेशन का,
उस पे लिखा हुआ
उसपे सर डिफरेंट कॉलेजेस की उन्होंने असेसमेंट किया है और अपने को 5 स्टार रेटिंग दी है, उसके बेसिस पे स्टार रेटिंग के बेसिस पे अपना यूजी का भी और पीजी का दोनों का असेसमेंट किया था। एंड फ्यूचर 5 years plan, we are planning to open MPD in these 2 branches, both gynae and critical care, and we are also interested to start a spine center at Bharat Hospital attached with our Physiotherapy College, and we are interested to start poster and gate analysis lab, and we are planning to make good projects for getting grant from national agency like ICM and ICE department. And we are deciding more on the publication of patent and copyrights, and we want to start artificial intelligence best facility service in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the achievements of our college. As the co-convener of the Physiotherapy Combined Round, I would like to give a very small gist of how we started this journey and how we have reached to this 25th session, and how it has impacted our students and faculties in developing a good holistic approach for the welfare of our patients. So we started with the PDCR on 17th August 2023. That was our first PDCR, which was on the shoulder impingement, and it was a collaborative work with the Department of Orthopedics of Mahatma Gandhi Medical College and Hospital, and the journey which began from that led to the respiratory. Then we had a collaboration with the respiratory department, then the CTVS department, then we moved on to the neurology department, the surgical oncology department, and many further such departments. We all collaborated. The occupational therapy department, we all collaborated to bring out the best possible result for our patients. So we started with in a form of seminars, but as suggested and advised by our emeritus chairperson, sir, Dr. M. Swankar, sir, we incorporated the case studies, and we started doing our case study based PDCR from the 10th PDCR that we started. So the usual records that we had is more than 600 plus student attendance we have seen in throughout the 25 PTCRs. Usually the strength that comes up with us is about 50 to 70, 80 students. Majorly the master's students and the PPT final year students and the interns are a part of this PTCR, as well as our faculties are always in this are always present during the PTCR and guiding the students as well as us to make sure that we make a best PTCR every next time that we do. So we had a simple format that we collaborate with the various different specialities. Like with the orthopedics, we have collaborated on the topics like shoulder impingement, ACL, then rotator cuff injuries, upper limb fracture. These are the cases that we saw. As well as with the cardiothoracic department, we had an on-pump CABG for TBD case and we discussed on that. With the neuro and neurosurgery, there were the patients with hemiparesis and low back pain, which we discussed. And we saw how a collaborative approach can help for our patients. Then of course from the medicine and pulmonology we have COPD and the respiratory failure case. From oncology we had a case of carcinoma buccal mucosa and another case of radiation oncology. Then in the pediatric we talked about the cerebral palsy, AUDHD from the occupational therapy, they were a part of ours, as well as we had a below knee amputation case as well. Moving on, this journey wouldn't have been completed, this journey wouldn't have been reached to this 25th step or era unless our dignitaries, our conveners, moderators, speakers, students, all wouldn't have been a part of it. And a special thanks to our patrons who have always guided us and pushed us to work in this direction, that how a collaborative work can build up a good approach for our patients' welfare, for our community's welfare. A very thank you to Dr. M.L. Swankar sir, Emeritus Chairperson, Dr. Vikas Swankar sir.
सबसे ज़्यादा बड़ा रोल है डॉक्टर कपूर का।
Yes sir,
उनका हमेशा मेंशन।
Yes, definitely I will come. Yes sir. Dr. V.K. Kapoor sir has guided us throughout this journey from the very start till this day as well. Yesterday also we were there in his cabin and we were talking about how to proceed with this function, and he has always guided us with each and every support that we require. He was there. So a big thank you Kapoor sir for helping us out throughout this PTCR's journey. So in this 25th PTCR, we have a collaboration between 4 different departments. The surgical oncology, the Department of Clinical Psychology, Department of Clinical Dietetics, and the Physiotherapy College. So the case that we have is a 42-year-old female, and she came with a history of a painless lump in the left breast for 1 month, and which she saw incidentally while bathing. So there was a clinical examination done, radiological assessment and histopathological evaluation was done, and she was diagnosed with a carcinoma of the left breast and planned for the surgical management. With it, there was also a multimodal approach taken with a pre and a post-operative rehabilitation program to optimize the physical function, reduce treatment-related complications and facilitate recovery following the breast cancer. So for the first part, for clinical suspicion to confirm diagnosis, I would like to invite Dr. Naina K. Agarwal, Associate Professor from the Surgical Oncology.
Morning, respected Emeritus Chairperson sir, respected dignitaries, faculty members and students. So we are discussing a patient who came with a lump in the breast from clinical suspicion to confirm diagnosis, and this was undertaken under the leadership of our HOD sir, Dr. Rajgovind Sharma sir. So 42-year lady who is a homemaker from Mahendragarh, Haryana, presented to the OPD with a lump in the left breast since 1 month. The patient noticed a lump in the left breast while bathing. The size was approximately 2 into 3 centimeters. There was no pain in the lump, no history of retraction or discharge from the nipple, no history of changes over the skin of the breast, no history of any swelling in the axilla, no history of change in the right breast, fever, trauma or loss of appetite and weight, and no history suggestive of any distant metastasis. When confirming with the past history, there was no history of any similar complaints in the past, no history of surgery or breast biopsy, no history of exposure to radiation, and no history of any other comorbidities. Upon taking the personal history, the appetite was normal, she She was taking a mixed diet, bowel and bladder habits were regular, and she denied any consumption of tobacco and alcohol in any form. Coming to the menstrual and obstetric history, the age at Medard was 12 years. She had regular cycles of 28 days plus minus 2. The age at first pregnancy 24 years and second pregnancy at 27 years, P2, L2, A0, and she breastfed each child up to 1.5 years and no history of using OCP or HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Family history, there was no history suggestive of BRCA-related 1 and 2 related cancers or cancer-related deaths in the family. This completed the history of the patient. The patient was next examined in a well-lit room after taking informed consent for examination and photographs in presence of a female chaperone. She was conscious, oriented and cooperative, well hydrated, BMI was 24.7, performance status was 90 on Karnofsky. There was no failure, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, generalized lymphadenopathy or edema. The vitals were normal. So till now we've completed the history of a patient who has come to us with a breast lump in the left breast. There's no pain. Now we are proceeding towards the examination of the breast and axilla as well as the upper limb, which are routine when we do the examination of a breast case. Now, the examination of the breast and the axilla. The breasts are symmetrical in size and shape. The left nipple areola complex is slightly higher than the right, which is perfectly normal. The skin over both the breasts are normal. There is no visible fullness or lump, and the nipple areola complex is normal on both the sides. Now we proceed with the palpation. The palpation of the right side was normal. As we see the palpation of the left side, we can feel that there is a lump approximately 2 into 3 centimeter in the upper outer quadrant of the left breast. It was firm in consistency and margins were regular, and it was firm to hardened consistency, and it was fixed to the breast tissue. There were no palpable nodes in bilateral axilla and the supraclavicular fossa. The bilateral supraclavicular fossa were free. The size of the breast was 32B and the arms were normal. There was no abnormality noted in the arms, and respiratory, CVS and CNS examination were normal. Summarizing the case, a 42-year premenopausal lady with painless progressive lump in the left breast since past 1 month. On examination, BMI of 24.7 with performance status of 90 on Karnofsky, a firm lump of 3 to 2 cm in the upper outer quadrant of the left breast without any axillary lymph nodes. The provisional diagnosis is a 42-year premenopausal lady with carcinoma of the left breast C P2N0M0, which is stage 2A. So we reached this provisional diagnosis. We proceeded towards the investigations. The patient underwent ultrasonal mammography of bilateral breast and the biopsy. On mammography, these are both the sections, the medial lateral view and craniocaudal view. It was a type C breast, which means dense breast, and you can see irregular hypoechoic mass with spiculated margins in this upper outer quadrant of the left breast at 1 o'clock. And the point to note, it was 1.5 centimeters away from the nipple areola complex. It is important when we plan the surgery for the patient. The size was 2.5 into 1 into 2 centimeters. After completing the ultrasonomammography, the patient underwent a core biopsy, ultrasound guided. It was invasive ductal carcinoma, grade 3. ER positive, PR positive, HER2 new negative, and Ki67 was 50%. Since it is stage 2, only ultrasound abdomen was done, which was normal, X-ray was normal. After completing the diagnosis that now the patient is a carcinoma left breast, ER positive, HER2 negative, we sent the references, we discussed it with our medical oncology team and radiation oncology team. The plan decided was first we will undertake the patient for surgery, followed by chemotherapy and then radiotherapy and hormonal therapy. Following the confirmation of diagnosis and surgical planning, the patient was referred for multidisciplinary rehabilitation and rehabilitation. The referrals were sent to the physiotherapy department, psychology department and the dietary department. Now I would like to invite Megha ma'am to take the case further.
Good afternoon, respected dignitaries, guests, faculty members and college students. Now I will describe the pre-operative assessment and rehabilitation plan. Before going to the rehabilitation plan, we need to understand what is rehabilitation. So rehabilitation defined as the optimization of the function before the stress occurs. It is not a rehab after the surgery but the preparation before it. It builds on three core pillars, that is exercise training, nutritional support and psychological intervention. Helps patient withstand surgical stress and improve clinical outcomes. The goals of rehabilitations are reduce incident of surgery-related impairment, enhance physical and functional capacity through exercise, reduce post-operative complication and shorten hospital stay, shorten physiological reserve via multimodal approach, that is exercise training, nutrition and psychological intervention, reduce risk like frozen shoulder, rotator cuff impingement, muscle pain in neck and shoulder joint. Now moving on to the objective assessment. On observation you can see the patient body build is mesomorphic, posture is slightly forward head posture, type of respiration is thoracoabdominal, mode of ambulation is independent. Now the range of motion of shoulder joint bilaterally for flexion, extension, abduction, external rotation and internal rotation, the range of motion is normal. For the muscle strength measurement, we use manual muscle testing. For bilateral muscles like deltoid, biceps and triceps, the MMT was normal, that is 4 out of 5. For function assessment, we took two scales. One is shoulder pain and disability index. The scoring was 5 out of 130, which indicate no significant pain or disability. And FACT-B scale, that is functional assessment of cancer therapy for breast cancer, the scoring was 58 out of 148, which is indicate poor health quality. Now going to the rehabilitation part. For the rehabilitation day 1, we taught the patient breathing exercises like deep breathing exercise, diaphragmatic breathing, incentive spirometry and thoracic expansion for 10 repetitions 2 times a day. Then for the neck exercises, active range of motion of neck rotation exercise, trapezius stretching for 10 repetitions 2 times a day. These are the demonstration. Patient is doing the shoulder butterfly exercise. This is the shoulder butterfly exercise. This is shoulder shrugs. This is the wall push-up exercise. And general shoulder range of motion exercise. All these exercises for 10 repetitions 2 times a day. For aerobic exercises, we add this walking 6 minutes 2 times a day. Sit to stand exercises for 20 repetitions 2 times a day. For rehabilitation day 2, chest physiotherapy is same as day 1. For limb PT, we progress along with the shoulder and neck exercises. We progress to pectoralis major and trapezius stretching for 10 repetitions 2 times a day. Pendular exercises, then wrist walking and sit to stand exercises. For the psychological rehabilitation of this patient was conducted under the guidance of Dr. Mahek Mathur, Department of Clinical Psychology. The session involved both the patient and her husband. The main focus of this session is to build a therapeutic rapport, providing pre-operative psychoeducation, preparing patient for post-operative adjustment, offering grief-related emotional support and family-based counseling. For the pre-operative dietary pre-rehabilitation was planned under the guidance of dietitian Varnita Prabhakar, Department of Clinical Dietetics. The primary focus was to optimize the patient nutritional status before the surgery. A protein balanced diet was prescribed with 73.2 grams protein daily. Also advised an energy intake of 1525 kilocalories per day with adequate hydration and was counseled regarding post-operative diet progression to facilitate faster and smoother recovery.
How do will you ensure protein,
So the calculation is
daily protein in a vegetarian patient? What will you suggest?
sir.
That he cannot, she can have.
So this is taken by the dietitian Dr. Varnita ma'am. So,
चलो आइए.
thank you. Now I'd like to call Dr. Naina again for the surgical panel.
Thank you, Dr. Adilma. Thank you, Dr. Adilma, for the extensive rehabilitation program. The plan decided was surgery. So, she was a 42 years young female. The plan decided was breast conservation surgery. The two things were important. First, there were no nodes in the axilla. So, our target was to do a sentinel lymph node biopsy. And if it was positive, then we will proceed for the axillary lymph node dissection. This was to reduce any lymphedema rates later on in the coming years in her life. The second, our objective was that this was the lump. After removing this lump, there will be a dip. So we want to maintain the normal contour. As you can see, the projection of the breast should be as same as the opposite breast. The nipple areola complex should be at the same level as it was earlier. As it was little slightly higher, it should be at the same level after the surgery. And this lump which we will remove, this will create a defect here. This defect has to be filled up and given the same symmetry and size to the breast. So the plan decided was oncoplastic breast surgery, wide local excision with LICAP, which is the lateral intercostal artery perforator, with sentinel lymph node biopsy with ICG methylene blue, followed by plus or minus. If it is positive, we proceed to the axillary lymph node dissection. I would like to thank our college and the hospital and all the dignitaries for providing us all the facilities. We had all the facilities to do all this in a single general anesthesia. First, we had given a green dye, which is the ICG dye near the nipple areola complex. The lymph nodes, as you can see, the lymph nodes were sent for the frozen section at the same time. The oncopathology team was there and dropped. They checked for the lymph nodes and lymph nodes were positive in the sentinel lymph node biopsy. So we proceeded towards axillary lymph node dissection. Secondly, this is for all the physiotherapy students. I would just like to explain which muscles we do the dissection when we are doing the breast surgery. This is the pectoralis major muscle and the serratus anterior muscle. Since this breast tumor is in the outer quadrant, we remove the tumor from the pectoralis major muscle and the serratus anterior muscle. Secondly, during lymph node dissection, we move towards the latissimus dorsi and teres major and minor, and when we are taking the flap, we tend to mobilize the tissue along the latissimus dorsi. This is the place where there was a defect in the upper outer quadrant after the tumor had been removed. So our target was to now fill this gap so that there is normal contour and regularity to the breast. We took the tissue near, this is the latissimus dorsi muscle, we took the tissue near the latissimus dorsi muscle and a small part of skin to cover this defect. This is the final picture. As you can see, there is a slight green component. This is because of the ICG dye which we had given, and here we had given single incision through which first the sentinel lymph node biopsy was done, then the axillary lymph node dissection was done when it was positive. Then we did, through the same incision, we did the lumpectomy for the tumor. We checked for all the margins by our oncopathologist. At the same time, they were all negative. After confirming that the margins are negative, completing axillary lymph node dissection, then we proceeded for the reconstruction. We took this entire tissue. This is only the skin flap you can see. This is the entire tissue, this area which was empty. We took this tissue from this area, which is the LICAP area, and we rotated it to fill the upper outer quadrant. This is for the final picture. This is the post-op patient, the photo of the post-op view. As you can see, there is a exactly the same contour and size as the opposite side. The nipple alveolar complex is exactly at the same level as previously. The lump has been filled up and the incision is healing well. Now I would like to invite Dr. Megha ma'am to take the case further.
Good afternoon to the chairperson, all the dignitaries, all the principals from the colleges, colleagues and your students. So thank you Dr. Megha for giving a brief outlook on the surgical aspects. So I will be taking the post-operative physiotherapy management. So as already discussed, a 42-year-old female was being planned for orthoplastic surgery. She was being operated on 23rd July and the physiotherapy assessment was done on 24th July. So the major complaint that the patient was having was the pain around the operated area, and definitely there was painful shoulder flexion abduction, and the most painful movement was the extension, which was not able to do, and patient was having a little radiation till the elbow joint. So the site of the pain was the operated site. The aggravating factors were the shoulder movements and overhead activity. The patient was relieved with the rest with no activity. The duration of pain was occasional, and the pain rating scale was taken on Rubik pain rating scale, that was 10, that was a severe pain. So on observation, the patient's build was mesomorphic. The posture was forward head, the shoulder was contracted and depressed. There was axillary drain, no other deformities were present, and patient was in an ambulatory condition, was walking. So with the physiotherapy assessment, we took the volumetric measurements, that was for the cervical region, that these are the readings for the first P of day. So patient was not having any problem with the neck functions, but the range of motion was taken for the left shoulder, that is the affected shoulder. So here the flexors range were 80, the extensors were not possible because it was very painful. Abductors were 75, adductors 90, external rotators 20 and internal rotators 20. So muscle reading was also taken for the particular muscles as ma'am suggested. So we had MFT for the deltoid, pectoralis major, bicep which was 4/5. Triceps was not possible because of the pain, and the scapular stabilizers again 4/5. So here we again took a functional assessment scale, that is the Faraday-Roney scale, which is taken with the health-related quality of life for the breast cancer patients. It has the 5 subgroups. These are the ratings, numeric values for the scale. Then we took the shoulder pain index. So the pain was 90%, the disability was 88.9%, the total scoring was 89.2%, showing the patient had a severe pain and disability. So functional assessment pulmonary was taken with the inspiratory value 4,500 and peak expiratory volume was 250. So here the goals were, the short-term goals were definitely to improve the early mobilization and to take care of the wounds and the drains and to prevent the long-term complications and to build up the functional independence as soon as possible. So long-term goals definitely included the strengthening arm mobility, protection for the lymphedema, and to build the strength and endurance for the long-term planning so that the patient can achieve his functional capacity as soon as possible. So on the first POT of the intervention, we had breathing exercises was planned, that was with the pursed lip deep breathing exercises, diaphragmatic and force-evident breathing for relaxation, 10 repetitions, and we started with the neck exercises, that is the chin tucks and the trapezius. As an observation, we have seen the patient had a protracted shoulder and a forwarded posture, so this will help the patient to improve the posture. So neck isometric was initiated with 10 repetitions, 5 seconds hold. Since on the day 1 the patient was little in a painful condition, so we only started with the assisted shoulder movements and we had given a 5-second holds at the end range to improve the mobility. So on the day intervention 2, all the breathing exercise was same, but we included the active cycle of the breathing with the neck exercises, chin tucks, and the exercises for the neck movements was progressed with the 10-second hold. And here we added for the shoulder exercises, finger ladder, shoulder shrugs and rotations. Again, this helps the patient to improve the hunchback and it targets the upper back and the neck muscles. So this is the video patient performing a little bit of the assistance. This is another video of patient performing the exercises. So on the day 3 intervention, all the exercises were continued. Patient was encouraged for walking, and the band exercises for flexion, abduction, extension with 10 repetition, 5 seconds were hold, because as ma'am said, the pectoralis major, latissimus dorsi are the major muscles which get involved. So it helps in the early mobility, and it also helps the patient to recover from the later complications. So on the day 3, again the shoulder movements, range of motion with the volumetric measurements were taken. So here the value shows the improved flexors, abductors, adductors, and as we have seen on the POD1, the patient was not able to do the extension, but on the POD3, we have achieved a 40° of the range. And again with the MMT of deltoid pectoralis major, there was a marked improvement in the muscle activation, and only the extension, that is the triceps, which was patient was not able to perform at the, she was able to do against the gravity. And scapular stabilizers strength was also being improved. So the patient was being guided for the do's and the don'ts, and a breast care diary was given to the patient for the future follow-up to all the departments. So the clinical progression was again made on the 10th day. It was a one-day tele-rehabilitation where patient was advised for all the exercises to do twice, where the capsular stretching and the W exercises were added again to increase the mobility and to prevent the long-term capsulitis and frozen shoulder. Walking was definitely increased at 20 minutes daily. Patient was asked for the regular follow-up and to maintain the breast cancer diet. This is the rehabilitation. So again the patient came for the follow-up after the 2 weeks, where the patient was continuing with all the other exercises. So here we added with the W and the scapular stabilizing exercises and the ball squeezing to prevent the further lymphedema, as the axillary nodes are being dissected. So it could be possibility that in future weeks the patient might develop lymphedema. So we started with the ball squeezing and scapular stabilizers so that we can work on the pectoralis major and latissimus dorsi. So the functional assessment was again taken on the second week, which showed the improvement. That was a fact. B scale showed a marked improvement from 92 to 101, showing a 95 improvement in overall health-related quality of life of the patient. Again, the shoulder index again showed the improvement. As we have seen, the patient was in severe pain and disability. But when the patient came on the second week, the patient was having only moderate pain, and the movements were possible. Only she was not able to do the movements because of the delay. So again, the functional assessment was also done on the second week follow-up, which shows that the physiotherapy intervention has improved the pulmonary and the muscle respiratory performance of the patient. This is the testimony of the patient. Voice is not coming, but the patient was happy with the improvement and she was able to perform all the movements. So now I would like to invite Dr. Mehak to take the psychological assessment and take the case forward.
A very good afternoon to all. I respect to all the dignitaries present, and then the chairperson, sir, the faculty members and the students who are present for this. I will be talking about psychological assessment and management of breast cancer surgery, which we did for this patient under the guidance of my HOD Dr. Sunita Purti. In the pre-assessment part, we had found that the patient is having certain sleep onset difficulty, which was present months before only, which was exacerbated by post-operative pain. And she always has been a light sleeper, and she had noise sensitivity, and there was also bedtime mobile phone use, which was also one of the things which was complicating her sleep process. When we evaluated her emotional status, we found that her mood used to be euthymic. She had good psychological adjustment prior to the illness, and there was no significant distress that was found. When we talk about illness acceptance, that is something that we assess in the patient, how much are they accepting of the diagnosis. We did find that she had expressed relief following the lung removal, and she remained optimistic about her recovery with cancer. And in breast cancer surgeries, especially with women, we also check for any body image concerns that are coming up after surgery and how the patient is coping with it. And we found that there is no significant body image or self-confidence confidence concerns. And the recovery remained the primary focus of the patient, that she wants to get better. We did psychological screening and we did not find any evidence of major psychopathology in the patient. The anxiety, stress and mood disturbances that did come a bit were a normal reaction to the diagnosis and the medical procedure, and there was no excess psychological disturbance that we could identify in the patient. So the short-term management goals that we established with the patient was to, of course, establish rapport and provide supportive care through active listening, facilitating emotional expression. We regarding the illness and treatment. We assessed her distress, mood, fear of recurrence and body image concerns. We provided psychoeducation on common psychological responses to the news of having cancer and the treatment that goes forward with it and normalized it. We also enhanced and reinforced adaptive coping and existing strengths. So the patient had a lot of strength, a lot of hobbies that she used to pursue. We asked her to restart those activities, and she also had a good family environment. And we also did family psychoeducation to enhance more support to the patient during this time. We also tried to promote treatment adherence and follow-up. We addressed post-operative concerns and normalized emotional reactions, and we provided basic stress management and relaxation technique. We had completed these assessments: the Depression Anxiety Stress Scale, the National Comprehensive Cancer Network Distress Thermometer, and the Brief Pain Inventory, short form, with the patient. I will talk about the results in a while. So again, we provided supportive counseling. We reinforced the adaptive coping strategies, and we talked about sleep hygiene, because sleep was one of the primary concerns that we could identify in our history taking in the patient. So we encouraged her to maintain a consistent sleep schedule, to limit mobile phone use to 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, use an eye mask, engage in relaxing bedtime activities, light reading, music, creating a quiet, comfortable and organized sleep environment, practice diaphragmatic breathing techniques, reduce caffeine intake, warm milk before bedtime, and promote treatment adherence and follow-up. We also taught her paced breathing techniques, which include, put the chart for it, right? You inhale for 4 seconds, hold and then release. And we had asked her to practice that. In the session we made her practice it, and we also gave it as a homework to do it 2 to 3 times a day. The session 3, the pain management and family intervention was taken up. Family education was provided to the patient's husband regarding explaining to him the relationship between stress, pain and sleep, so that he can understand that how all these things are connected to each other, so that he can understand the mind-body relationship, that how mind affects the body and the body affects the mind. So he was psychoeducated regarding the same, and also to provide time to time consistent emotional reassurance to the patient and provide practical support. Also reinforcement of sleep hygiene and relaxation techniques, that if patient is not able to remember, he was also taught that this is what the patient needs to practice, that he can remind her and he can help her practice these techniques. And to encourage adherence to medical treatment. The patient actively participated in both the sessions. She demonstrated understanding of sleep hygiene and the paced breathing techniques. The husband also showed good understanding of supportive caregiving strategies. Patient reported feeling very reassured and motivated to continue adaptive coping while awaiting further oncological management. Now, when I talk about the assessment findings, right after the post-operation, we found that in the DASS-21 Depression Anxiety Stress Scale, there were no clinically significant symptoms, so the total score was of 4. And in the follow-up findings, it reduced to the score of 2. And the clinical trajectory shows that she remains stable and within normal non-clinical limits. When we talk about the distress thermometer, right after the operation it was 5 to 6 out of 10, driven by physical pain, physical concerns, headache, fatigue, right? But there was no emotional distress and spiritual distress. And in the follow-up findings, that score also reduced to 1 out of 10, where we found very minimal, the score was just 1. So it showed very minimal distress tied strictly to situational factors of the visit to the hospital, leading to stitch, brain removal, travel, headache, not eating prior to assessment, and not due to any sort of emotional reasons. So there was significant overall reduction in distress, and the baseline post-op pain was well managed by medication as well. In the pain inventory, the mean score remained at the moderate, but what we found was that the way to cope with it, the way to handle the pain improved in the patient due to medication and therapy, right? So while the pain remained there, it did not interfere in her socio-occupational functioning by the time the follow-up phase came. She was able to manage it better through the techniques that we taught to her. So there was overall improvement in daily functioning with resolution of sleep disturbance. There was a slight increase in pain score which was attributed to the treatment. Now, in the follow-up counseling and management again, there was no reported difficulties with adherence, no implementation barriers or difficulties. The long-term goal that she had taken forward with this patient is again to facilitate a successful psychological adjustment to living with cancer while the treatment goes on, to prevent development of clinically significant psychological distress. So in this case, our work is more preventive, right? Because we did not find any active psychopathology, right? So our work is more preventive, and to promote resilience through stress management and positive coping, to address any body image or self-perception concerns if they at all proper, at present they are not there, to assist in coping, maintain family functioning and enhancing quality of life. So that was about the psychological management. For the nutritional assessment and management of breast cancer surgery, I would like to call upon Ms. Vanita Prabhakar from the dietetics department.
Good afternoon, respected dignitaries, chairpersons and all the faculty members. I will now just discuss the nutritional assessment and management of breast cancer surgery in this case. So here the clinical nutrition goal was to assess the nutritional status of the patient, identify the nutritional related risk if she was malnourished or she is normal, optimize the nutritional status before surgery, supporting wound healing and recovery post-surgery, prepare for any adjustment therapy if required. So we firstly assessed the nutritional status of the patient, and the height of the patient was 161 cm, weight was 64 kg, and which the ideal body weight was 59 kg, which shows that the BMI of the patient was 24.7 kg per meter square, and there was no any recent weight loss, and appetite was adequate, oral intake was acceptable, nutritional impact symptoms were not reported, and no any comorbidities were seen, and we followed patient-generated subjective global assessment, which shows that she falls under stage A, which denotes that she was well nourished. No any weight loss was seen, and no any clinical symptoms or malnutrition was seen. She was stable and accepting the oral intake as well. So the nutritional diagnosis, there was no evidence of protein energy malnutrition, as I say. PAC statement, problem, etiology, signs and symptoms, no nutritional diagnosis related to malnutrition as evidenced by she was on stable body weight, BMI was 24.7 kg per meter square, adequate oral intake, absence of nutritional impact symptoms, and the PG-SGA grade was also stage A. Our nutrition goal was to maintain the body weight of the patient post-operative also, meet the peri-operative protein requirements of the patient, promote wound healing, prevent the lean body mass of the patient, and to prevent post-operative nutrition decline. So as it was already told, the pre-operative nutrition plan of the patient was to promote high protein balanced diet to optimize the nutritional status and prevent the lean body mass of the patient. The energy which was given to the patient and advised is 25 to 30 kilocalories adjusted according to the nutritional status, and which comes 1525 kilocalories per day. The protein requirement was calculated was 1.2 gram kg per body weight, and to support the immune system and the wound healing of the patient, which comes 73.2 gram per kg body weight per day. To ensure the adequate hydration before surgery, that is very much important. Provide nutrition counseling regarding post-operative diet, and she was advised to come post-operative also. So for the post-operative nutrition management, according to EDA's protocol, oral feeding was resumed after 24 hours after the surgery. as she can tolerate. And the energy was 1525 kilocalorie, which is 25 kilocalorie kg per day. And to promote bone healing, just we increase the protein intake up to 1.5 gram per kg per day, that is 92 gram per day, which can be promoted through including the protein sources like paneer, tofu, dal, pulses, and nuts. That is very much important. Encourage small and frequent meal to improve dietary intake and tolerance. High quality protein sources as in each meal to meet the increased protein requirement. She was suggested to have that. Monitor, and if any gastrointestinal symptoms were there, we will alter the diet according to the symptoms. Encourage early mobilization in combination with adequate nutrition to enhance post-operative recovery. This was the diet plan provided to the patient pre-operative and the post-operative. Pre-operative, she was advised to have a balanced diet so that her body can be prepared for the post-surgery. For post-surgery nutrition plan, firstly we followed with clear liquids as she can tolerate to early gut recovery, just to see the early gut recovery. And in day 1 and day 2, from soft diet we just switch to high protein normal diet. In soft diet we can give like khichdi and paneer and tofu mixed with eggs or if she can consume. Early digestion and for tissue repair, this was the purpose of the diet. Onwards, on day 3 we just have included the full balanced diet rich in high protein and vitamin C just to promote the bone healing of the patient. If the patient is not, she was advised if the patient is not able to fulfill 50% or 75% of the requirement as we prescribed, so we can go for oral nutrition supplementation. For follow-up, monitor weight gain and dietary changes as no malnutrition was not seen in this case. But we can't say if the normal BMI is there, but then also the patient is healthy. As in oncology patient, that is very much common that they can suffer from a lot of complications, symptoms, which is ultimately related to loss of nutrition. So reassessment of PGHD and follow-up between 7 to 15 days, she was advised, and assess bone healing and recovery. Monitor treatment-related nutritional impact if she is going for radiotherapy, chemotherapy or immunotherapy. There are a lot of symptoms which we see in the patient. So we suggested the patient that we will alter the diet according to the symptoms